You know what the real tragedy is? Not that people suffer. Suffering has always been there. The real tragedy is that people have forgotten how to listen. They have become so addicted to their own voice, to their own noise, that they cannot hear the one thing that could set them free: silence. But when I say silence, don't misunderstand me. I am not talking about the silence of a graveyard. I am not asking you to become mute, to suppress yourself, to become a statue. No, that kind of silence is dead. What I am talking about is alive. It's the most alive thing there is. There's a language that existed before words were invented, before your mother taught you to speak, before society trained you to perform, before the world told you who you should become. That language is still speaking right now, in this very moment. But you cannot hear it because you're too busy talking. Look at yourself. When was the last time you sat for even 5 minutes without distraction, without the phone, without the television, without music, without someone to talk to, without even your own thoughts screaming for attention? You can't remember, can you? And that's not an accident. You've been running from the one person you're terrified to meet, yourself. Comfort is the enemy of transformation. I'm going to take you on a journey, not to some distant mountain or mystical temple, but into the very core of your being. And I warn you, what you'll find there isn't always pleasant. At least not at first, but by the time we finish, you'll understand why every sage, every awakened being, every master who has ever walked this earth has pointed toward the same thing: silence, not as an escape but as a homecoming. So settle in, turn off whatever needs to be turned off. Give me your complete attention. Not because I'm special, but because what I am about to share with you could change everything. In our time together, first I'm going to reveal to you why the loudest person in the room is always the most empty inside. You'll see how noise becomes a cage, how constant talking becomes a sickness, how the more you speak without awareness, the less you actually communicate. And then I'll show you the hidden price you pay every time you refuse to be quiet, a cost nobody talks about, an invisible bleeding of your life force that happens every single moment you choose distraction over depth, performance over presence, noise over your own being. So let's begin. Here's something you've probably noticed but never quite understood. The person who talks the most at a party, the one who dominates every conversation, the one who cannot bear even a moment of quiet, that person isn't confident. They're terrified, absolutely terrified. And what are they afraid of? That if they stop talking, if they stop performing, if they stop filling every gap with noise, people will see through them. They'll see the emptiness. But here's the twist. The emptiness isn't the problem. The emptiness is actually the solution. But they don't know that yet. So they keep talking, like a radio that's been left on, playing static. No music, just noise. You do this too, maybe not at parties. Maybe you do it in different ways, through your phone, through your work, through your endless planning and worrying, but you're doing the same thing. You're filling the space because you're afraid of what you'll find if you don't. Let me ask you something. Have you noticed that the most insecure people are always the loudest? They wear the brightest clothes, they tell the biggest stories, they laugh the hardest at their own jokes. Why? Because inside they feel like nothing, worthless, insignificant. And they think, maybe if I make enough noise, people won't notice. But everyone notices. Because noise doesn't hide emptiness, it reveals it. I was once visited by a man, very successful, very wealthy. He owned factories, had thousands of employees. His name was known across the country. He came to me and said, I have everything, money, power, respect, but I feel empty. Why? I looked at him and smiled. Because you never stop. You're always doing something, achieving something, proving something. You've become mechanical, a machine, and machines can produce things, but they can never feel fulfilled. He was shocked. But everyone says I should keep working, keep building, keep growing. Yes, I said, and that's why you're empty. You're living everyone else's idea of success. But you've never sat down and asked yourself, who am I when I'm not doing anything? When I'm not achieving, not performing, not proving, who am I in silence? He couldn't answer because he'd never been silent long enough to know this is the conditioning. From childhood, you're taught that to be valuable, you must be productive. You must talk. You must participate. You must have opinions. Silence is seen as weakness, as having nothing to say, as being dull or uninteresting. So you learn to fill every moment with something, anything. Just don't let there be silence. And slowly, over the years, you forget who you were before all this noise began. You become your noise. Your achievements, your opinions, your stories, but none of that is you. It's just the costume you're wearing, the mask you put on to hide from yourself. Watch a child sometime, a very small child, before society has gotten its hands on them. They can sit for hours completely absorbed in watching an ant crawl across the floor. No words, no commentary, just pure watchfulness. That's meditation. That's silence. Not empty, but full, overflowing with awareness. But then we teach them to be busy. Don't just sit there. Do something, say something, be something. And slowly that natural silence dies. It's replaced by the constant chatter of the mind, by the endless demands of the ego. You see, the ego cannot exist in silence. It needs noise to survive. It needs to compare, to judge, to defend, to attack. It needs to keep telling you its story. I am this. I am that, I should be more, I am less than others, I am better than them. On and on it goes. A broken record, and you've been listening to that record for so long, you think it's your voice. But it's not. It's the voice of your conditioning, the voice of society, the voice of fear. Real confidence, real strength has nothing to do with noise. Have you ever met someone who speaks very little, but when they do speak, everyone listens? That's because their words come from depth. They come from silence. They're not trying to convince anyone of anything. They're not performing. They're simply sharing something real. That's what happens when you stop being mechanical, when you stop reacting and start responding. Reaction is mechanical. Someone insults you, you immediately react. No gap, no space, just automatic, like pressing a button on a machine. But response, real response, comes from awareness. Someone insults you and there's a pause. a moment of silence. And in that silence, you see clearly. You see that their insult has nothing to do with you. It's their pain, their anger, their wound. And suddenly, you don't need to defend. You don't need to attack back. You can simply smile and move on. This is the power that silence gives you. Not the power to dominate others, but the power to remain yourself no matter what's happening around you. But most people never discover this power because they are too afraid to be quiet. They think if they stop talking, stop doing, stop proving, they'll disappear. But that's exactly what needs to happen. The false you needs to disappear. The one who's been pretending, performing, hiding, that one needs to die. And it can only die in silence. I'm not saying don't talk. I'm saying watch the quality of your talk. Is it coming from fear or from love? Is it mechanical or conscious? Is it filling a gap or expressing something real? The loudest person in the room isn't strong. They're desperate. Desperately trying to convince themselves they exist. But the person who can sit in silence, who can listen deeply, who doesn't need to prove anything, that person is rare, precious, like a diamond among stones. And here's what you need to understand. You can become that person. You already are that person. You've just covered it up with so much noise you've forgotten. So far, we've seen why noise is not strength but fear. We've begun to understand that the emptiness you are afraid of isn't your enemy, it's the doorway. Now we must go deeper. We must look at what it costs you. Every time you choose noise over silence, every time you fill the gap instead of sitting with it, you pay a price. And that price is much higher than you think. Let me show you what I mean. The hidden price you pay every time you refuse to be quiet. Nobody tells you this. Your parents don't tell you. Your teachers don't tell you. Society certainly doesn't tell you. But every moment you spend running from silence, you're losing something precious, something irreplaceable. Your life, not just time. Time is just measurement. I'm talking about life itself. The quality of your being, the depth of your experience, the possibility of ever knowing who you really are. You see, when you're constantly making noise, constantly talking, constantly distracted, you're not living. You're sleepwalking. You're going through the motions like a puppet, and the strings are being pulled by everyone except you. Your conditioning pulls one string, society pulls another. Your fear pulls a third. And you're just dancing to their tune, thinking it's your dance. But here's what's really happening. Every time you pick up your phone, the moment you feel bored, every time you turn on the television to avoid being alone with yourself, every time you fill the silence with meaningless chatter, you're making a choice. And that choice is this: I choose unconsciousness over awareness. I choose distraction over presence. I choose to remain asleep. And the cost is enormous. First, you lose your clarity. Your mind becomes like a lake in a storm, constantly churning, constantly disturbed. And when the water is disturbed, you cannot see what's at the bottom. You cannot see the truth. You can only see the waves, the ripples, the surface chaos. That's why you're confused all the time. Not because life is complicated, but because you won't let your mind settle. I'll tell you something. I once knew a professor, brilliant man, 3 PhDs, could quote every philosophy book ever written. He came to me in complete despair and said, "I know everything, but I understand nothing." "Why?" I said, "Because you know with your head, not with your being. Your head is full of borrowed knowledge, collected from books, from others, but you've never sat in silence long enough to discover your own truth. You're like a parrot repeating beautiful words, but the parrot doesn't understand what it's saying." He was hurt, but he knew I was right. All that education, all that information, and he couldn't answer the most basic question: who am I? This is what happens when you refuse silence. You become a warehouse of other people's thoughts, other people's opinions, other people's truths. But your own truth, that remains buried, hidden, waiting for you to become quiet enough to hear it. Second price you pay, you lose your energy. Have you noticed how exhausted you feel at the end of the day, even when you haven't done anything physically demanding? That's because talking, thinking, worrying, planning, all of it drains you. The mind is the greatest consumer of energy in your body. And when it's constantly running, constantly producing noise, you're leaking energy like a bucket with 1,000 holes. Silence conserves energy. It gathers you back together. It's like coming home after wandering in the desert. Suddenly you feel whole again, rested, centered, but you never allow yourself that rest because you're addicted to the exhaustion. You mistake busyness for aliveness. You think if you're not tired, you haven't lived enough. What madness! Third, and this is the most dangerous price, you lose your authenticity. You become a copy, an imitation, a cheap photocopy of what society expects you to be. Listen carefully. Every time you speak to impress someone, every time you perform to get approval, every time you laugh when you don't find something funny just to fit in, you betray yourself. You say yes when you mean no. You smile when you want to scream. You stay when you want to leave. And slowly, day by day, you forget what your real voice sounds like. You forget what you actually feel. You become mechanical. A machine has no inner life. It just follows its programming. And that's what you've become. Programmed by parents, programmed by society, programmed by fear. And the tragedy is, you think this is who you are. You've identified with your programming so completely, you cannot even imagine what it would be like to be free. There's a beautiful story of a fish that was very thirsty. It swam through the whole ocean, asking every creature it met, "Where is water? I'm dying of thirst." The other fish laughed. "You're surrounded by water, you fool. You're swimming in it." But the fish couldn't understand. It had never known anything else, so it couldn't recognize water. That's you. You're surrounded by silence. It's in every gap between your thoughts. It's in the space between your breaths. It's in the pause before you speak, but you've never known it, so you don't recognize it. And you keep searching for peace, for fulfillment, for meaning, not knowing that what you're searching for is already here. You're swimming in it. Fourth price, you lose your relationships. Oh, you have people around you, friends, family, colleagues, but do you have real connection? Or is it just noise bouncing off noise? Two tape recorders playing at each other, neither one actually listening. Real intimacy happens in silence. Not the silence of two people who have nothing to say, but the silence of two beings who don't need words to understand each other. When you can sit with someone and feel complete without speaking, that's love, that's connection. That's what everyone is searching for, but you never find it because you're too busy talking, explaining yourself, defending yourself, trying to be understood. You don't realize that understanding has nothing to do with words. It happens in the spaces between words, in the silences, in the moments when you stop performing and just are. I remember a couple came to me once. They'd been married 20 years and were on the verge of divorce. We don't understand each other anymore, they said. I asked them, when was the last time you sat together in silence? They looked at me like I was crazy. We tried that once. It was so uncomfortable. We didn't know what to do. Exactly. You don't know what to do with silence because you've never learned. You've only learned how to fill it, how to avoid it, how to run from it. And in running from silence, you run from each other. You run from love itself. Fifth prize, and this one is subtle but devastating. You lose your creativity. All creativity comes from silence. Every great artist, every musician, every inventor knows this. The work doesn't come from thinking. It comes from a place beyond thinking, a place of pure awareness, pure receptivity. When you're constantly making noise, constantly consuming content, constantly chattering, there's no space for anything new to enter. You're too full, full of garbage, but full nonetheless. And creation needs emptiness. It needs space. It needs silence. That's why when you finally take a break, when you go for a walk without your headphones, when you sit without your phone, suddenly ideas start flowing. Solutions appear, insights arise. Not because you're trying, but because you've finally given them space to emerge. But the biggest prize, the one that encompasses all others, you lose yourself. You lose contact with your own being. You become a stranger to yourself. And then you spend the rest of your life searching for something you call happiness, success, love, meaning, not knowing that what you are really searching for is yourself. You are the missing piece. Not out there. Not in the next achievement, the next relationship, the next distraction. Here inside, waiting in silence. And the saddest part, this is all voluntary. You're not a victim. Nobody is forcing you to be noisy. Nobody is forcing you to avoid silence. You're doing it to yourself, out of habit, out of fear, out of unconsciousness. But here's the good news, and listen to this carefully because this is where everything begins to change. The same way you chose unconsciousness, you can choose awareness. The same way you chose noise, you can choose silence. It's a choice, your choice, and it's available to you right now, not tomorrow, not after you finish this, that, or the other. Now, you're feeling it already, aren't you? A little bit of discomfort, a little bit of resistance. That's good. That resistance is showing you something important. It's showing you where you're stuck, where you're afraid. And that fear, that resistance is the doorway. Now something shifts. You've seen the problem. You've seen the price. You understand why you've been running and what it's cost you. But understanding is not enough. Knowledge is not transformation. What happens next is where the real journey begins. where everything you thought you knew about silence, about yourself, about life itself gets turned upside down. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you will change everything. How silence transforms worthlessness into infinite value and depth. Here's the secret nobody tells you. The very thing you've been running from is the thing that will save you. That emptiness you're terrified of, it's not empty at all. It's full, overflowing, infinite. You've just been looking at it from the wrong angle, like a man standing in front of a treasure chest, convinced it's a coffin. All your life, you've been told that to be valuable, you must add something. More knowledge, more skills, more achievements, more possessions. You must become more. But I'm telling you the opposite. To become truly valuable, truly precious, you must subtract. You must become less. Less noise, less pretense, less performance, until what remains is just you, pure, unconditioned, silent. And that silence, that pure being, is more precious than anything you could ever add to yourself. Think about it. What is truly valuable in this world? Not what's abundant, what's rare. Diamonds are valuable not because they're useful, but because they're rare. Gold is precious because it's scarce. And in this world drowning in noise, in endless chatter, in constant distraction, what could be more rare than a silent person? A person who doesn't need to prove anything, who doesn't need to explain themselves, who simply is. That rarity makes you magnetic, not in the way the loud person tries to be magnetic by demanding attention, but magnetic in the way a mountain is magnetic, silent, unmoving, and yet everyone who sees it stops and stares. I have watched this happen countless times. A group of people talking, arguing, debating, and then someone walks in who says nothing, just sits, just listens, and slowly everyone's attention shifts to that person, not because they are trying to get attention, but because they're complete in themselves. And that completeness is so rare, so unusual, that it draws people like moths to a flame. You see, when you're silent, you stop leaking energy. All that energy that was going out in endless talk, endless worry, endless performance, it starts gathering inside you, like water collecting in a well. And the deeper the well becomes, the sweeter the water. The more silent you become, the more depth you develop. And depth is what people recognize as real value. But let me be clear, this is not the silence of repression, not the silence of biting your tongue because you're afraid to speak, not the silence of hiding. That kind of silence is just noise turned inward, still violent, still disturbed, still mechanical. The silence I'm talking about is born of awareness. It happens when you see that most of what you were going to say is unnecessary, not because someone told you to be quiet, but because you've become aware. You've started watching your own mind, and in that watching, something extraordinary happens. You begin to see the difference between real communication and mere noise. Real communication happens rarely. It happens when there's something true to share, something that comes from depth, from your own experience, from your own understanding. Everything else is just a social ritual, mechanical responses, borrowed opinions, noise. Once a student came to a master and asked, "Master, What is the most important teaching? The master remained silent. The student asked again. Again, silence. The student asked a third time. Finally, the master spoke. I've already told you 3 times. The student was confused. But you said nothing. The master smiled. Exactly. You see, some truths cannot be said. They can only be shown. They can only be transmitted in silence, from being to being. And when you become silent, you start receiving those transmissions. Not through words, but through presence, through awareness, through the wordless understanding that flows when 2 silent beings meet. This is why all the great teachings, all the real wisdom points towards silence. Not because the masters were against talking, but because they knew that what they wanted to share couldn't be contained in words. Words can describe it, can point toward it, but they cannot capture it. Only in silence can you receive it. And when you do receive it, when you taste that silence even for a moment, your whole life changes. Because you realize something shocking. You realize that all your worth, all your value has nothing to do with your achievements, your possessions, your status, your relationships. All of that is surface, all of that is temporary. Your real worth is in your being. And your being exists only in silence. You stop comparing yourself to others, because comparison is noise. It's the ego trying to measure itself, trying to prove itself better or worse. But in silence, there's no ego. There's just awareness, just presence. And awareness doesn't compare. It doesn't need to. It simply is. You stop seeking approval. Because seeking approval is noise. It's you trying to get others to validate your existence. But in silence, you validate yourself. Not through thought, not through achievement, but through simple being. You exist. You are aware. That's enough. You stop chasing happiness, because chasing is noise. It's you believing that happiness is somewhere else, in some future moment, in some better circumstances. But in silence, you discover that happiness was never somewhere else. It's here, it's now. It's in the very awareness that you are. This is the transformation. Not adding something to yourself, but removing everything that's false. Like a sculptor who doesn't add anything to the stone but only removes what's unnecessary to reveal the statue that was always there. You are already precious. You always were. You just covered it up with so much noise, so much doing, so much proving that you forgot. Silence is simply the remembering, the coming back home to yourself. And when you do come home, when you start living from that silent center, people feel it. They may not know what it is, they may not be able to name it, but they feel something different about you. A depth, a solidity, a presence. You are not like everyone else, scrambling for attention, performing for approval, drowning in their own noise. You become rare, and rarity is value. I remember once a businessman came to me, very successful, very rich. He said, I've made millions, I have everything, but people treat me like a bank account. They only want me for what I can give them. Nobody sees me. I asked him, when was the last time you were with someone without talking about business, without planning, without doing? When did you just sit and be present? He couldn't remember. His whole life was noise, deals, meetings, calls, plans. He'd become mechanical, successful, yes, but mechanical, and people responded to him mechanically. They didn't see him because there was nothing to see, just a walking, talking business machine. I told him, try this. For 1 week, spend 1 hour each day in complete silence. No phone, no work, no distraction. Just sit and watch. He looked skeptical but agreed. A month later, he came back. He looked different, calmer, more present. He said, something's changed. I don't know what, but people are responding to me differently. My wife said I'm actually listening for the first time in years. My children want to spend time with me. Even my business partners seem to trust me more. I smiled. You became real. Before, you were just a machine. Now, you're a human being. And people recognize the difference. That's the transformation silence brings. It makes you real, authentic, and authenticity is the most precious thing in a world full of copies, of imitations, of people performing versions of what they think they should be. You don't need to add anything to yourself. You don't need more knowledge, more success, more possessions. You need less. Less noise, less pretense, less performance, until what remains is just your pure being, silent, aware, present, and that being, that silent presence is worth more than all the noise in the world. But there's still one more layer, one more depth we must explore. Because silence isn't just about you becoming valuable, it's about something much bigger. Something that connects you to everything that exists. Something that makes you untouchable, no matter what chaos surrounds you. Let me show you what lies at the very heart of silence. The rarest quality that makes masters magnetic and noise invisible. Now we come to the deepest secret. The one that changes everything. You want to know what makes a master a master? What makes some people magnetic while others are ignored? What creates that quality of presence that everyone recognizes but nobody can explain? It's simple. They've discovered that they are not separate. Not separate from silence. Not separate from existence. Not separate from this vast, eternal awareness that flows through everything. When you're making noise, you're separate. You're cut off. There's you and there's the world. You against it. Trying to prove yourself, protect yourself, define yourself. The noise creates the boundary. It creates the illusion of separation. But in silence, something miraculous happens. The boundary dissolves. You stop being this small, separate self. You become space, vast, infinite, untouchable. This is what the masters have discovered. Not through effort, but through letting go. They've stopped defending the boundary, stopped maintaining the noise that creates separation. And in that stopping, they've merged with everything. And here's what's beautiful. When you're no longer separate, when you're one with existence itself, nothing can disturb you. How can you be disturbed when there's no separate you to be disturbed? Insults pass through you like wind through space. Praise passes through the same way. Success, failure, gain, loss, all of it just flows through without leaving a mark. This is why masters seem so unshakable. Not because they're suppressing their reactions, not because they're controlling themselves, but because there's nothing there to shake. They've become like the sky. The clouds come and go, storms arise and pass, but the sky remains untouched, always clear, always present, always silent. And this quality, this unshakable presence, is magnetic, not because it's trying to attract, but because everyone is unconsciously seeking it. Everyone is looking for that peace, that depth, that silence. And when they encounter someone who embodies it, they're drawn to it like a thirsty person to water. You've felt this yourself. You've met people who talk endlessly, but you forget them the moment they leave. And you've met people who say very little, but you remember them forever. What's the difference? Presence, depth, silence. The noisy person is trying to convince you they exist. The silent person simply exists. And existence needs no proof. Listen right now. As you hear these words, there's silence underneath them. Between each word, there's a gap, a space. That space is not empty, it's alive. It's awareness itself. And it's always been there underneath all your noise, all your thinking, all your doing. The master has simply learned to live from that space, to make that silence their home. And from that home, everything they do carries a different fragrance. Even their actions become silent. Not in the sense that they make no sound, but in the sense that there's no ego in them. No, I am doing this. Just pure action arising from stillness. This is the rarest quality in the world, because everyone is taught to do. But nobody teaches you how to be, how to rest in your own being, how to let life flow through you without resistance, without control, without the constant commentary of the mind. And when you discover this, even for a moment, you become free, free from the need to prove yourself, free from the fear of what others think, free from the constant exhaustion of maintaining your noise. You become like a mountain, silent, ancient, eternal, and people look at you and feel peace, not because you're giving them anything, but because your silence reminds them of their own silence. Your being reminds them that they too are more than their noise. This is the ultimate gift of silence. It doesn't just transform you, it transforms everyone you meet. Because silence is contagious, presence is contagious, peace is contagious. One silent person in a room full of noise can change the whole energy, not by doing anything, not by saying anything, just by being. So I'm not asking you to become silent as a technique, as another achievement to add to your list. I'm inviting you to discover what you already are underneath all the noise. The silent awareness that has always been here, watching, waiting, untouched by everything that passes. And when you discover it, you laugh. Because you've been searching for something you never lost. You've been trying to become something you already are. You've been making noise, trying to find silence, not knowing that the silence was there all along, patiently listening to your noise. Now, let us come full circle. Let us return to where we began, but from a different place, from the other side of this journey. Remember when we started, I told you that you've forgotten a language that existed before words. Now you know what that language is. It's the language of your own being, the language of silence. And it's not that you forgot it, it's that you covered it up with noise, with doing, with becoming. But it's still there, it never left. And now that you've glimpsed it, now that you've felt even a whisper of that silence, you can never completely forget again. So what do you do now? How do you live with this understanding? Simple. You start watching. Watching when you are about to fill silence with unnecessary words. Watching when you reach for your phone to avoid being alone. Watching when you are about to react mechanically to something. And in that watching, a gap appears. A space. And in that space, you have a choice. You can fall back into the old pattern, into the noise, or you can pause. You can breathe. You can remain silent. Not forever, not as a rigid rule, just for a moment, just to taste it. Tonight, before you sleep, try this. Sit for just 5 minutes, no phone, no music, no distraction. Just sit and listen. Listen to the silence underneath all the sounds. Listen to your breath. Listen to the awareness that's watching. Don't try to make anything happen. Don't try to achieve some special state. Just sit, just be, just listen. And if thoughts come, let them. If noise arises in your mind, let it. You're not trying to stop anything. You're just watching, witnessing, being aware. That's all. 5 minutes, every day. That's how it begins. Not with force, not with effort, but with gentle awareness, with patience, with kindness toward yourself. And slowly, day by day, that silence will grow. It will seep into your life like water into soil. It will nourish you, transform you, make you precious. You don't need to become anything other than what you already are. You just need to remove what's false. And the false will fall away by itself when you shine the light of awareness on it. So go gently, be patient, trust the process, trust the silence. And remember this, the more silent you remain, the more precious you become. Not precious to others, though they will feel it, precious to yourself. And that's what matters. When you become precious to yourself, you stop depending on others for validation. You stop seeking, you stop searching, you simply are, and in that simple being, you find everything you've ever been looking for. May you remember the silence. May you return to it again and again. May it become your home. Now, close your eyes for a moment. Take one deep breath and listen. That silence was always here, waiting for you. Welcome home.